Is this the year Maryland beats Ohio State, Penn State, or Michigan?
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you for making us part of your day. Please like and subscribe. We're under 3 weeks until the college football season is coming, and the Maryland Terrapins are on the way, and I could not be more excited. But today, can Maryland bring down one of the big three this year? I don't know exactly who. I don't know exactly when, but Maryland will beat one of the big three this year. I'll tell you that right now. We've gotten too close. We're just too good, and I think where the program is right now, I think we're ready to do it. Is it the likelihood that we do it? Maybe not. Is it the betting odds? Would they pick us to do it? Probably not. But I am telling you guys that this is the year that we finally bring down Penn State, Ohio State, or Michigan. And the number one reason right now is Taulia Tagovailoa. He's the best quarterback in the conference in terms of pass production. He's got weapons all over the offense this year. In the wide receiver room, in the tight end room, in the running back room. And if the offensive line can hold up, Taulia will give us a chance every single game to win the game. They usually talk about that with NFL quarterbacks. Do you have a guy that gives you a chance to win every week? And I think we have that guy in Taulia, and he's shown it in the past. Besides 2 games last year, pretty much every game he gives us a chance to win, and I think he'll only get better this year. So I think every game he gives us a chance. But if we look at the past year, especially last year, we have played this team close. I'm talking about Michigan. We played them basically even throughout. And if you guys don't remember, we fumbled the opening kickoff. The first play of the game, we fumbled it on the 5-yard line. 10 seconds in, they're already up 7-0. And guess what the final score was? 27-34. We played them evenly. You could say we outplayed them besides that play. And that was with Corum having 232 yards to beat us. They couldn't beat us without that amazing performance from Corum. But this year, of course, Michigan's the preseason number 2 team, and they're only better. Their defense is awesome. But like I said, Taulia will give us a chance every game. And I look at if we can stop the run against those guys, if we can stop Corum, and if we can stop Edwards, can Jordan Phillips plug up the holes in Akiba Sote and the other defensive linemen, can they do it against the Michigan? Then I give us the chance to beat them. Because I think in terms of guys on the outside and at wide receiver, at quarterback, of course, they have McCarthy, who's a really good player, and he's only going to get better. I'm not going to lie. But I do think if we're able to stop the run, that can be the key, because I don't think their guys on the outside are obviously really good players, but they don't scare me as much as that running back room does and the rest of that defense. But we absolutely cannot turn over the ball if we want any chance of beating them. Like I said, when we fumbled the kickoff on the first play of the game, we absolutely can't do that. I wouldn't be surprised if this year they just kneel the ball and start at the 25 if we get the opening kickoff instead of bringing it out. But that's kind of besides the point. But we cannot turn over the ball. I'm going to say that if we want a chance at beating any of these teams are too good to have a negative turnover margin against. We have to hold on to the ball. And we probably honestly have to beat them in the turnover margin if we want a chance at beating them. But I think this year it comes down to the last couple of minutes against one of these teams. I don't know if Michigan's the most likely team that we can beat. I don't love how we match up against them. In year 2, J.J. McCarthy kind of scares me a little bit if he's improved. But the next team that I think we could have a chance to beat in Penn State. So Penn State game last year, obviously did not go well. We lost 30-0, worst game of the year. But that is reason for optimism this year. I think the team is going to be motivated. I think the guys who were on the team last year aren't going out like that against Penn State again. Even if we don't win, they're not going to put up that type of performance. We already, of course, know the program they are, but Penn State does have a new starter at quarterback in Drew Aller. So can the defense mix some things up? Can we beat them? Can our defensive coordinator throw a couple new looks at Drew Aller that he hasn't seen? Is Drew what everyone expects him to be? I mean, I think he is going to be a good player, obviously. But again, similar to Michigan, it's going to be about stopping the run game. And Singleton and Allen, the two freshmen from last year who are now sophomores, are definitely their best players. Because similar to Michigan in ways, I think Michigan's wide receiver room is actually better than Penn State. But I don't think Penn State's wide receiver room is anything special. I think our cornerbacks can actually match up with them. Tarheeb still on the outside and Jaquan Shepard, the new transfer. I think we can actually match up with them on the outside. I think it's about stopping the run against them. And they obviously have an awesome defense. They have on all three levels, they have just awesome players, whether it's Curtis Jacobs, Abdul Carter. They have one of the best cornerbacks in the country who might be the number one cornerback off the board. So in terms of defensively, Taulia is going to have to put up some points and just will his way through them. And our wide receiver room is going to have to play really well. We might need a breakout game from Corey Dyches, which I'm going to talk about later. We might need an X-factor guy that maybe Raymond Brown has a 80-yard touchdown to the house that we don't expect, and it's his coming out party. We're going to need someone to step up because that defense is very good. But yeah, they do have a new starting quarterback, like I said, and I think Penn State is probably the worst right now out of the three in terms of overall talent. Don't get me wrong. They're a very talented team, but do I give us the best chance to beat Penn State out of all three of them? I don't know. I think it comes close, but it just seems like Penn State last year had some schematical stuff against us that we just couldn't keep up with. And don't forget, I want to make this point. Taulia came back too early from his injury to play against Penn State. He wasn't ready. He wasn't in the right condition to play. And this year, a healthy Taulia gives us absolutely a chance to win. But obviously they have their awesome running backs. But Roman Hemby, don't forget about our running back room. Roman Hemby is one of the best running backs in the conference also. And Antoine Littleton, don't forget about our backs either, because they can stick with those guys at Penn State, even though those guys at Penn State are awesome. But can Maryland beat Ohio State? I'll talk about it after this ad from Nutrafol. You don't have to choose between better hair growth and your health. Nutrafol provides a whole body health approach for men that promotes healthier hair, no drugs, no compromises, just better hair. Nutrafol supports healthy hair grown from within by targeting root causes of thinning such as stress, hormones, environment, nutrition, lifestyle, and metabolism through whole body health. Take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you go to Nutrafol.com/men and enter the promo code LOCKEDONCollege. So make sure you guys check out Nutrafol. Can Maryland beat Ohio State this year? Absolutely. So over the last couple of years, you guys know that we've had a couple blowouts against them, and we have had a couple back and forth absolute thrillers against them. One of the best Maryland games of all time was in 2018. Urban Meyer was still the coach at Ohio State. Overtime, 52-51, instant classic. One of the best games I had seen But we obviously didn't win that game. But hear me out on this one. If it comes down to overtime again, I like our quarterback. I like our guys on our side this year. And I think overall, this is one of the better Maryland teams ever, especially in the Coach Locksley era. I think it's Coach Locksley's best team. So I like our quarterback. I like our coaching staff to get that job done this year if it goes to overtime. These guys have put in too much work over the past years, and they know what it takes to beat some of these programs. I know we're talking specifically about Ohio State and if they can beat them, but there's a lot of experience on the team, whether it's Taulia, whether it's Bo Braid, whether it's Tarheeb, whether it's Dante coming back. There's a lot of experience, and then there's also youth players that are very talented, whether it's Jayshawn Barham. We have guys that can get the job done. I wouldn't be telling you that we could beat them if we didn't have the talent. We legitimately have the talent to beat these teams this year. Obviously, we got to keep it real. Those other teams, Ohio State, Michigan, Penn State, have more talent than us. That's just what it is in college football right now. They're the upper echelon programs, and they get the best recruiting classes every year. But Maryland does have enough talent to beat any of these teams and to put up together a really good season. But back to Ohio State. Last year, don't forget, we came within one possession against Ohio State. We had the ball with a minute left. Down by 6. So I think we can do it this year. I know you guys, a lot of people can call me crazy, but the ball with 1 minute left in 6 minutes, or down by 6, give us that opportunity again with the guys we have on the outside and with Taulia. But this is the thing that kind of caught my eye looking at the stat book from last year. Taulia outplayed CJ Stroud. If you guys don't remember, CJ Stroud, one of the better Ohio State quarterbacks, I guess you could say, ever. Second round pick in the NFL draft last year to the Texans. But Taulia outplayed him. Listen to the stat line from last year. Taulia went 26 of 36 for 293 yards and 2 touchdowns. Stroud went 18 of 30 for 241 yards and a touchdown. So Taulia clearly outplayed Stroud in that game. I was reading a quote that said if Taulia played the way that he played against Ohio State, he'd be the best quarterback in the country. But it tells you a lot that he can outplay the second pick in the draft, and that is part of why I think we can beat them this year. If you guys don't know, Ohio State is having a quarterback competition between Devin Brown and Kyle McCord. So either one of those guys is going to be the new starter who hasn't had any experience yet. So similar to what I said about Drew Aller, can the defensive coordinator mix some things up, throw some different looks? That's what we can do against Ohio State. And that's the reason, part of the reason I think that Ohio State, I'm going to tell you, is the best chance of us beating one of these 3 teams. Obviously, they have loads of talent, talking about at the wide receiver position specifically. And on defense, also, they got a ton of talent this year. Obviously, they have the best player in the country, maybe, in Marvin Harrison, and the second best wide receiver in the country in Emeka Mbuka. But if our guys can slow them down, we're not going to stop them completely. But if Jaquan Shepard and Tarheeb still, I'm talking about them a lot today, but if they can find a way to slow those 2 guys down, I give us the opportunity to beat Ohio State. Honestly, I wouldn't mind if they run the ball a ton and they average like 5 yards per carry against us. If they're running the ball and they're not throwing the ball well, you got to pick your poison against a team like that, because we're not stopping both of them. If we're being realistic, we can't stop their run game and Henderson and the rest of their running back room. But if we can slow down one side and Taulia and the offense can put down up points and maybe we can get a turnover, then I think we have a realistic shot of beating them, because we're close to beating them last year, and that's within the second pick in the draft at quarterback, and our quarterback outplayed them. But another point that I was looking at before making this was that they play Notre Dame the week before us. So what does that mean exactly? So There's this stat in the NFL that teams were like 0-17 last year after playing the 49ers. And you know what the 49ers kind of remind me of a little bit? Obviously, it's not in a direct comparison. They remind me of Notre Dame a little bit. A team that doesn't always have a great quarterback, but they usually have a lot of guys around them. Obviously, this year they have Sam Hartman, and they obviously have a chance at beating Ohio State. But if Notre Dame can beat them up, obviously I don't wish injuries on nobody, but if they're just bruised up, beat up, tired physically, and they under prepare for us, they're not ready for us. Players hold out against us because they're not ready to play. Then maybe we can beat them, and maybe that's a different advantage that we have that a lot of people aren't playing them after Notre Dame, because Notre Dame's a physical team. You know, Notre Dame always has a really great offensive line, so maybe their defensive line's beat up. I don't know, but it's just a point to make. I do think it could potentially come in play. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I do think there's a strong possibility that after the Notre Dame game, they could overlook us, because Notre Dame's ranked like 13th in the country right now. Obviously, one of the better programs in the country. So, but what will bringing one of those teams down mean for the program? It would mean so much for us. First of all, just in terms of the season, that season right there, I think we always are too quick to how does it help in the next 5 years? How does it help just that year? It's going to help Maryland finish in the top 25, I think. Have an amazing season. Have a season that Terps fans are satisfied with, and that's why they honestly do it. They obviously they do it for themselves, in their career paths and their passion. The players do, but they also do it for the Terps fan and the Terps community. Beating one of those teams means a successful season. The fans probably rush the field, and it would just be an awesome moment that you can look back at as a Terps fan, and it shows how we are improving in our program, because honestly, that's the next step. Last year we went 8-5. And obviously we had losses outside of Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, but there were only 2 other losses. We're beating most of the other teams that we should beat. The next step as a program is beating a team that we shouldn't beat. And that's what these 3 teams offer us. But I think it does also have an effect on recruiting. If you look at Penn State, they always seem to take away a lot of DMV recruits, I guess because they're not far away at all. But they always get a ton of guys. If we look at Jalen Harvey, who just released his top 3, he has Penn State in there, and he was a heavy Penn State favorite for a while. So if we can show that we can beat a team like Penn State, if we can beat a team like Ohio State, it really does change the landscape of a recruiting. And at the end of the day, recruiting is what makes your team good in years to come. So if we can take another step there, then that's just making another step overall as a team. But I think most importantly, I don't want to just go over the success of the year. And Coach Loxley did say we can win the Big Ten championship, and I'm not saying he's wrong. I've talked about this a lot. But if we want any chance of beating those teams and making it to the Big Ten championship, we're probably going to have to beat 2 out of 3 of them and not lose to anyone else. So if you look at it that way, if we want any chance of beating the Big Ten or being in the Big Ten championship, we're going to have to beat 2 of 3 of them. So it might give us a chance at a Big Ten championship. I don't know when the last time Maryland has been in one of those, but that would be an insane step for the program. That's just looking at the absolute bright side. I doubt that we get there. But that's kind of what I think a win can do for the program. And, man, it'll just make them happy and the Terps community happy. All right, next we're going to talk about the tight end room. It has a chance to be the difference in the offense after this break. All right, Maryland's tight end room, we haven't talked about it a ton, but it has a chance to be the X factor of the offense. Starting with the starter, Corey Dyches. I talked about him earlier in the episode, I'm pretty sure. This guy's underrated. Corey Dyches is a very good player, an amazing player. He's that kind of wide receiver, tight end hybrid. Reminds me of Okonkwo, the former Maryland wide receiver who's on the Tennessee Titans this year, who's looking to make a huge step forward this year. He reminds me of Okonkwo in a lot of ways because of that speed and that versatility he brings as a tight end. He can just do things that other tight ends can do. I mean, does he give up some blocking because of it? Probably. He's not the biggest tight end, but he's still a pretty big dude, and the way he moves, it's just fluid. He's fast for a tight end. You could probably say he's the fastest tight end in the Big Ten. I don't have a stat check on that or anything. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I think he'd definitely be top 1 or 2. He's just a matchup nightmare. And the reason I think that he's an X factor, or I wouldn't say he's an X factor, but he's the guy that can provide a difference in us beating into Michigan and Ohio State. I think, can he get a 60-yard touchdown over the top linebacker in man coverage? They messed up. No safety back there. All-out blitz against Ohio State. And Corey Dyches gets behind a linebacker because he's too fast. Or can he go up and catch a pass over a cornerback because he's too big for a corner? Those are the kind of plays that I think Corey Dyches can make, that can make the difference in our season, honestly. Nobody really talks about this, but he almost had 500 yards last year. He had 496 yards, and our leading wide receiver, Jayshon Jones, had like 550 yards. So, like, he was up there for one of our wide receiver leaders last year. And I know we lost CJ Dupree, and he's obviously a great player, and he's at Alabama now. But I'm going to go ahead and say it. Corey Dyches is the better player. Overall, I think he offers a little bit more. Obviously, CJ Dupree is an awesome player. He's going to do awesome things at Alabama. But I do like Corey Dyches a little bit better. But to get to other guys in the tight end room, guys that I did touch on a little bit in the last episode, but these are the guys I want to talk about as X factors this year. Preston Howard and Rico Walker. Preston was on the team last year, and Rico Walker is a freshman this year. But Preston, man, if you watch the spring game, this dude is so talented. He's 6'6", but can move really well. Similar to Corey Dyches. He's not quite as fast, but he's bigger than Corey Dyches. He did play quarterback in high school, so he was relatively raw in terms of playing the tight end position in college football. But if he's improved this year, which he showed in the spring game, there was one catch that was just insane. One of the better catches you'll honestly see. It was over a linebacker in coverage, but it was a crazy catch. Go back and check that out. But then there was an also play where he was running a drag route, and he just absolutely separated from the DB. And just the way he moves, the fluidity he has in his body for 6'6" is quite impressive. And I know he's gotten stronger. I've seen on his Instagram different posts about how he's gotten stronger. He shows a before and after picture, and he's clearly gotten stronger overall and put on some weight. But then we go to Rico Walker, another player who I think can be an X factor this year. He's a freshman this year. I talked about in the last episode. I think him and Preston are kind of competing for the tight end 2 spot. I think they both get the reps. I think Preston kind of gets the early edge, though, because of just having another year on Rico. But next year, the tight end room will be in the hands of Rico and Preston, and we're going to need them to step up this year. And I want to see them get experience. But can Preston somehow find a way to make one catch against Ohio State or Michigan or Penn State that makes the difference in the game? Not like 3, 4, 5 catches. I'm not expecting him to do that as a number 2 tight end. But can he make one play on a 10-yard, 3rd and 10? Taulia doesn't have any of his receivers open or something, and Preston is sitting open in zone coverage, and Preston makes the play. Or can Rico Walker put on a 15-yard out route against the linebacker or DB while Corey Dyches is getting off for a play and it moves the chains? Or something like that. You know what I mean? A guy that we're not looking out towards, though, that can be the difference. And that's why I kind of want to talk about the tight end room today and what I kind of expect from them this year, because I do think they can be the difference this year in a 8-9 win team. and a 10-9 win team, or let me rephrase that, in a 7 win type of team and maybe a 9 win team. So that's kind of what I think, but that's all we have for today. Thanks for listening to Locked On Terps. Please like, please subscribe, and we'll see you next time.